Would you fatten the sun? Fatten the sun? There is no fatten. Would you fatten the sun? Fatten the sun?
Welcome everybody. I think good evening mostly, or potentially very good morning to some of you. But welcome, we're happy to have you. And good to see so many familiar faces as well, and especially faces like my colleague Steve with 2 sunglasses on his head still this evening, which can be explained later.
Can it though?
Can it? Maybe. We can explain it later. So let's keep it moving. Why are we here?
Why are we here?
Yeah.
Who are we?
Who are
What
we?
is this?
What is this? Where are we? Well, almost a year ago, actually April 8th to be precise, we launched the Frida vaccine for COVID-19. And this was the goal, or the primary goal that we set out to fight to make COVID-19 diagnostics, so tests, treatments, and vaccines sustainably priced, available to everyone, everywhere, and free at the point of delivery. And this was before there was even a vaccine, right, or a treatment or anything. So that's what we set out to do, and also build this awesome community of which you are all a part. So who are we, as you said, Steve?
We are many people. We are the Center for Artistic Activism, UAM, and Health Gap. And I'm Steve Lambert. I am the director of the Center for Artistic Activism. And my colleague Rebecca is here. Rebecca is waving.
Yes, hello.
And Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel. Great to be here with all of you.
So we are all from the Center for Artistic Activism. The Center for Artistic Activism helps people use their creativity and culture to affect power. We've worked on other access to medicines campaigns, and we have been partnering with universities allied for essential medicines. Meredith?
Yeah, I'm Meredith Fazy, and I am the executive director for UAM in North America. Before I say anything else, though, I do want to just drop in the chat a link to our world exclusive of the music you were listening to earlier, by our friend and colleague Deontay Keat, who's also known as DJ Chalant, who's worked with UAM in DC for a number of events. So we are
Can you just say
sharing
exclusive again, Meredith? Can you say exclusive again?
exclusive.
Okay.
Okay, yes, he's awesome. Please share it. Please follow him on Patreon, Instagram, and share the love, because obviously this is being shared with everyone for free. So I just wanted to say that there, and we're going to be sharing that with some of our friends and colleagues as well tomorrow for the 1-year anniversary. But UAM, the vision of UAM is basically that universities and publicly funded research institutions should be part of the solution and not the problem to the access to medicines crisis. And we were founded in 2001, 20 years ago, at the height of another pandemic, the HIV/AIDS pandemic. But that is a longer story. So I am going to pass over to Emily, who's also on the call from Health Gap.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm the grassroots coordinator at Health Gap. Health Gap is a small international nonprofit, and our goal is to remove barriers to accessing medicines all over the world. We mostly work on HIV medicine, but we are working on the COVID vaccine in part because the same battles that we're fighting to make the COVID vaccine accessible are the same problems that we have making HIV drugs accessible. So any win that we have with the COVID vaccine will translate into other medicines as well. Happy to be here with all of you.
Okay. Why are we here? We are here because all of you care about making sure that COVID-19 treatments and testing and the vaccines are affordable and accessible, not just for those of us that are fortunate enough to be in wealthy countries where those are rolling out, but around the world, and to revolutionize the way that we do R&D and healthcare. because it's the right thing to do. And it's hard work and it takes a long time. We've been at it for a year and there's still more work to do. But we're here because together we can do pieces of that work and move things a lot further. And that's what we've done over the last year, and that's what we'll continue to do. So Daphne, tell us a little bit more about this.
Absolutely. So speaking of this rally today, we're here today because tomorrow, March 11th, is the 1-year anniversary of the WHO declaring COVID-19 a pandemic. So as Meredith mentioned, this day will also mark a year of our amazing Access to Medicines community coming together to fight for fairness in the COVID-19 health access space as well. So as part of the People's Vaccine Coalition, what we want to do on these days is to really mark them by organizing a global day of action to ask for equitable and timely access to COVID vaccines for the whole world, which is a really, really important point. And we're hoping that this rally will show you all why this is such an important cause and really get you fired up to take action tomorrow.
And this birthday cake is here because it's been a year of us all working together, and that's something that we can celebrate. And it's dark, and we're about to get into the darkness here. As dark as things are, for I think a lot of us, like having these meetings and being able to work on this is part of what's gotten us through the pandemic. So that is something to celebrate.
Right, and to touch on the more somber points, so this is the situation we're in right now. So this is a map showing all the confirmed cases and deaths from COVID worldwide. As you can see, we've passed 2.5 million deaths across the world. And it's also important to note how skewed these figures can be because they really are dependent on the accuracy of reporting systems in different countries. So it's generally safe to assume that these are underreported. But this really shows us that it's essential that we recognize on this anniversary of the pandemic how many needless deaths have occurred because of COVID-19 and will continue to occur at the current rate of vaccine distribution if we don't take steps to really reform the system we're working in. And that's why we're here. And that's why we're asking pharmaceutical companies to share their vaccine recipe, to share their intellectual property so that we can increase global manufacturing capacity and most importantly, achieve much faster and fairer allocation of the COVID vaccine and of more vaccines. So we're here asking pharma and of course also our own governments to put people before profits in this pandemic. And that's really the main principle that we're acting on. So now I'll pass it on to Lee and Meredith, who are going to introduce a number of really amazing speakers who are going to talk to us about the importance of tomorrow's action, how it ties in with these principles, and of course, the wider context of the issue at play. And you're going to get to hear more about what exactly we're asking on this global day of action.
Thanks, Stephanie. It's a lot. We've got a lot going on. But first, I think you're going to hear from some of our allied organizations. We are part or a founding member of the People's Vaccine Alliance. Oxfam is one of those organizations, and Liz Carty joined us this morning, and she has a video that she's going to share this evening that we're going to play for you right now.
We all want to end the pandemic and reopen the economy. But to do so, we need a COVID-19 vaccine that is available to everyone. A people's vaccine. For years, drug companies have raised the price of our medications while receiving billions in taxpayer dollars. Now, the US government has given them $10 billion of our tax dollars to develop a vaccine. Yet, the drug companies will still hold complete control over the price and own the patents for medicines we paid to invent. Sound unfair? That's because it is. We need a people's vaccine, free for everyone, everywhere. Without a people's vaccine, there's no guarantee of a treatment that's affordable and accessible to all. Where you were born and how much money you have shouldn't determine whether you live or die. A people's vaccine will be affordable and distributed fairly, based on need, not ability to pay. Across the world, drug companies are getting rich while millions cannot afford care. A people's vaccine is a chance for change. It's this simple. COVID-19 vaccines invented with taxpayer dollars must be made available for free to everyone who needs them. It's time for a people's vaccine.
We can share that video with you too if people are interested in sharing it on their social media tomorrow. That can definitely be something that goes out to everyone. It's very cool. Who's up next?
Yeah, now we have a video from Heidi Chow, who works for Global Justice Now, leading their pharmaceutical campaign to fight for access to medicines in the UK and across the world. She spearheaded a lot of organizing and on-the-ground work for the People's Vaccine Alliance. So let's hear from her.
Hello, my name is Heidi Chow and I'm a campaigner at Global Justice Now, which is based in the UK, and we are one of the main organisers of the Global Day of Action tomorrow. The Day of Action is really important because we believe that when people come together in solidarity to demand change, that's when things happen. And we are facing a situation where the global north are heading towards herd immunity later this year, while countries in the global south are predicted to wait 3 to 5 years. This global apartheid is no accident. In the past year, we've seen rich countries racing ahead to hoard as many vaccines as possible. We've seen pharmaceutical companies more than willing to sell to the highest bidders. And we've seen publicly funded vaccines monopolized by private companies. And none of this is right. The vaccine should have always been a global public good, manufactured by as many manufacturers as possible to ensure sufficient quantities are produced. It should have been affordable to all countries and free to the public. But it's not too late. We are calling out the hypocrisy of our governments. The UK government plays a lot of lip service to the idea of equitable access to vaccines. They often cite the saying, "No one is safe until everyone is safe." But their words mean nothing because they are one of the leading hoarders in the world of vaccine doses. They are also one of the leading blockers of a proposal at the World Trade Organization to suspend patents. And it's not just rich governments that are complicit in this, it's also the pharmaceutical companies. They are not innocent bystanders or benevolent bystanders in this whole situation. They have also been lobbying hard to defend their monopolies. They have been protecting fiercely their position and been lobbying rich country governments to stand on their side at the World Trade Organization. We need to pressure pharmaceutical companies to stand down. We need to pressure them to share their vaccines with the world, to share their blueprints and their technological know-how with the world through the World Health Organization. On the anniversary of the pandemic, we cannot stay silent in the face of vaccine apartheid. If this happened within a country where the richest citizens were vaccinated first and everyone else had to wait years for the vaccine, there would be a massive public scandal. But that's what we're seeing on a global level. And we need to expose the complicity of governments and companies in this global scandal and take action together for a people's vaccine. There are protests taking place across the US tomorrow, also in the UK where I live, and other countries as well. And there are plenty of actions that you can take online as well. So let's come together as the global north and the global south, and let's say no to this injustice.
Awesome. A huge thank you to Heidi, who joined us this morning, but obviously with the time difference, it was a little bit late for her to join us. It's 2 o'clock in the morning for her. But next up, we have the amazing Winnie. She is well known. She was previously the executive director at Oxfam, and now she's at UNAIDS, and she's very passionate about the people's vaccine. And it was under her leadership that one of the initial letters went out to world leaders back in May on this issue.
Greetings to the People's Vaccine Rally. This is how change happens. You are how change happens. I'm Winnie Bianima. I lead the United Nations fight against AIDS. We, the communities fighting AIDS, we know the cost in lives when life-saving medicine is held up by patents and the refusal to share technology and know-how by putting profits before lives and everything else. And we know too how fair access can be secured. It is never given it is always one. We are starting to see progress on our TV screens. In the last month, rich nations were vaccinating their citizens at a rate of 1 person per second. And now, some deliveries to developing countries have begun. But right now, the majority of developing countries have been unable to administer a single dose of a COVID vaccine, and only 3% of people in developing countries can hope to be vaccinated by the middle of this year. Meanwhile, opinion polls in rich countries show that more than 2/3 of the citizens in those countries agree that governments should ensure that vaccine science and know-how is shared with qualified manufacturers around the world rather than being monopolized by a handful of pharmaceutical giants in their countries. Qualified vaccine producers all over the world stand ready to produce more vaccines if they are allowed access to the technology and know-how that's now being held under lock and key by these companies. We don't have time to wait. Over 17,000 health workers have died in the past year. We don't have time to wait. Waiting helps the virus to spread, to mutate, and to become even more dangerous. The World Health Organization has told the world. The new head of the WTO has told the world the time is now. We're not asking for charity, we're demanding for justice. Sign the petition, lobby your leaders, tell your friends, you are lifesavers. Keep pressing. Through the power of people, we will win. Support the call by the United Nations Secretary General for a vaccine that is a global public good, that is a people's vaccine. Thank you.
I think we're going to interrupt this show with a public service announcement, but thank you.
COVID-19 has radically changed all of our lives. It has changed how we interact with others, even our own friends and family. Many of us wonder when we will return to a normal way of life, where social distancing becomes social interactions. The reality is that without equitable access to a vaccine, normal could be as late as 2023. The good news is that we can change this timeline. If we want this pandemic to end sooner rather than later, we need global access to COVID-19 vaccines. Everyone deserves a shot. Have an influence and sign the Right to Cure European Citizens Initiative now. With your support, we can ensure that the European Commission does everything in its power to ensure fair and equal access to COVID-19 vaccines and treatments all around the world.
Rachel, who do we have next? Do we have Netty?
Sure. Yeah, we have Netty next, who has another video for us.
Kesehatan dan kehidupan adalah hak setiap manusia di seluruh dunia, dilindungi oleh semua konstitusi dan tidak boleh ada yang menghalangi untuk mendapatkan akses tersebut. Di masa pandemi yang tidak jelas ujungnya, kapan akan berakhir, kebutuhan akan public health seperti layanan kesehatan, obat dan vaksin semakin tak terhindarkan untuk semua negara tanpa terkecuali. Multiplier effect pandemi COVID-19 juga berimbas pada memburuknya kondisi ekonomi negara di seluruh dunia. Keterbatasan akses dan sumber daya menjadi penghalang bagi banyak negara miskin dan berkembang untuk memperoleh obat dan vaksin COVID-19. karena penelitian, pengembangan, dan produksi pengadaan vaksin masih didominasi oleh segelintir negara maju dan perusahaan farmasi besar dunia. TRIPS Agreement menjadi satu batu sandungan dalam memperoleh hak tersebut, yaitu hak kesehatan dan kehidupan. Karena kesepakatan ini menetapkan proteksi atas paten dan kekayaan intelektual dalam perdagangan internasional. Namun, semangat deklarasi Doha bahwa TRIPS Agreement harus diinterpretasi dengan tujuan to protect public health and to promote access to medicine for all harus terwujud. Oleh karena itu, saya dengan mendasarkan pada kemanusiaan dan menjaga kehidupan umat manusia, mendorong Indonesia untuk memberikan dukungan pada proposal TRIPS waiver agar tidak terjadi konglomerasi dan monopoli terhadap vaksin dan obat COVID-19 yang mengakibatkan ketimpangan akses obat dan vaksin bagi masyarakat dunia. Salus populi suprema lex exto.
Next up, we have the one and only Peter Maberduke, who some of you will recognize, who is actually on our Jedi Council and has been a supporter of Free the Vaccine since day one, and is also the Director of Access to Medicines at Public Citizen. So welcome back, Peter.
Outstanding to be with you guys again. So Heidi Chow earlier in the program mentioned vaccine apartheid. That means access depends on where you live. My parents just informed me that they are going to be getting their second dose of the NIH Moderna vaccine, the people's vaccine, a vaccine that we all paid for with taxpayer dollars and public and charitable investments over the years, on Friday. And at that point, my family is going to start feeling relatively protected from this terrible pandemic. I was talking the other day with my friend Javi Yamosa, who, just like me, is an Access to Medicine's career activist, a professional, a health professional, and a father. I've got a young daughter. He's got two beautiful young boys, but he lives in Peru, and he has absolutely no idea when his family can expect to be vaccinated or even to have that goal in sight. It's just not something people can plan on in most of the world at this point. So why do I get access and he does not? It's because he was born in the wrong place and his country is poorer than my own. And that makes me angry. And it makes me want to fight. So the good news is that we can change this. There are good people who are trying to solve the problems, the technical problems, the manufacturing problems, get vaccines to everybody who needs it. Good people in governments, we're talking to them. They're looking for support. They're looking for solutions. And the People's Vaccine Alliance has issued a very helpful call to action. One is what you heard about the WTO waiver. It's a proposal to kick out the pharma bullies. It essentially would lift a number of obstacles, making it easier for countries to protect their people and design the policies they need and they choose to protect their people. Second is the Technology Access Pool with the World Health Organization. That's a plan to share all our knowledge, put all our technology and our ability to respond to the pandemic together. So you lift the obstacles with the TRIPS waiver and you charge through to the other side with CTAP. For those of you in the United States, we've got a further ask, which is for Joe Biden to decide, to make a political decision to manufacture vaccines for the world and support regional manufacturing hubs and fund it. We think that we can get to a point where we offer 8 billion more doses of safe and effective COVID vaccine in about a year's time, enough for half the world's population, enough to shorten the pandemic by a year or more, end vaccine apartheid, save 1 million lives and a couple of $1 trillion perhaps. That's obviously well worth doing at any cost, but the cost of action is a fraction of the cost of inaction. And you have a critical role to play in this fight. Activism and art build movements and change minds. We need your creativity, we need your passion, we need your vision and your organizing. So join up with Free the Vaccine, join up with the People's Vaccine Alliance, and help us change the world all together now. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Peter. Powerful words, and lucky to have you here. Oh, we're going to another commercial break.
Does this ever happen to you? You've got 7.8 billion people who all need a COVID vaccine, and fast! Now there's CTAP. CTAP slices. It dices. It covers embarrassing bald spots. See this stain? Zap it with CTAP. Are you overwhelmed by existential dread at the meaninglessness of the universe? Talk to your doctor about CTAP. No, really, CTAP just lets scientists and researchers share data about COVID. Think of it as GitHub for vaccines. Tap into CTAP. Oh, yeah!
Courtesy of Free the Vaccine.
And for a very different take on some of the same issues, we have a video from Lou Lopez, who is the executive director for Universities Allied Essential Medicines in Brazil and Latin America. So let's hear from her.
Hi everyone, I'm Luciana, the executive director for UIM in Latin America. And I'm sorry I couldn't join you tonight. It's a little bit late here in Brazil where I'm based. And Brazil is a country that has recently been losing more than 1,500 lives every day for COVID-19. 25 of our 27 state capitals are now seeing the health system collapse. We have a new variant that the entire world is worried about. And we are the top 1 country in Latin America when it comes to number of doses, vaccine doses, but still we couldn't protect more than 5% of our population. And at the same time, we see Big Pharma asking Biden's administration to punish countries like Colombia and Chile that are trying to protect themselves. And that's really, really, really unfair. We need to protect everybody. We need solidarity. We need it now. We need a people's vaccine. We have more than 20 public drug manufacturers in Brazil. We could be developing technology. We could be producing technology. We could be helping to end the pandemic. And we can do that. We can do that through CTAP. We can do that through a TRIPS waiver. And that's why today I wanted to thank you all. I wanted to say I honor all of you for, in these very, very difficult times, finding the strength and finding the solidarity to fight for all of us. So thank you very much. And let's do it together. And let's remember that no one is safe until everyone is safe. Thank you.
And now let's hear from Tayaba, a student leader at the University of Maryland and also a leader within Free the Vaccine and Universities Allied for Essential Medicine as well.
Hi everyone. As Rachel was saying, my name is Tayaba. I am a current senior at the University of Maryland. I'm also a pre-med student, and kind of, echoing on what Peter was saying and what Lou was saying in her video is, as a young person in the United States, I carry a lot of privilege in the fact that if I got COVID-19, I probably would not die from it just because of the fact I'm a young person, and also the fact that I have access to not only technology and resources that allows me to go to school online and, access groceries through a delivery app if I wanted to. Many people across the world don't have that access. And, as we're coming on to, this light at the end of the tunnel in the United States, people are getting vaccinated. I can't help but think about my family abroad in Pakistan. A bunch of them have gotten COVID-19 and, thankfully they were able to recover. But for a lot of people, that isn't the case. And they still have to live in this kind of weird limbo where they have to, act in society and, work through it all without having, assurance of a vaccine coming their way anytime soon. Maybe I get the vaccine by end of August, and I'm able to kind of continue on with my life. And, this becomes a part of my life where I watched, specific TikTok trends that kind of were the hallmark of my pandemic experience. But for other people, it not only does it deepen, health disparities, but also economic disparities. So I just wanted to kind of come in and, encourage you guys to work on these issues. And I think as a young person, we also have that great power to push these institutions of power to act on CTAP or the TRIPS waiver in order to make a people's vaccine. We live in the United States, one of the most powerful country in the world that can literally change the course of this pandemic in like a day if they wanted to, but they haven't. So I just think it's really important that regular people like us are able to kind of work through campaigns like Free the Vaccine or, what have you, and are able to use simple messaging like a CTAP commercial or whatnot to kind of push this message forward, not only to, make other people aware to it, but also bring this issue to life for people who are in power. So yeah, alrighty. Thank you.
Thank you, Tayaba. Wise words, and we're lucky to have you with us. But wait, Rachel, do we have something else?
I think there might be like one other speaker that we should maybe listen to right now. Is it time?
Thank you very much
No.
for allowing me to say a few words to you today on this issue of enormous importance to all of us in every country on earth. As you know, 1 year ago, on March 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization declared the COVID-19 outbreak to be a global pandemic. Since that day, our lives have changed in ways that we could not have imagined. In order to slow the virus down, we have been painfully separated from our families and from our friends. Many have lost jobs and struggle to provide basic necessities for their kids amid this lockdown. Worldwide, over 116 million people have been infected and more than 2.5 million people have died from this virus. Here in the United States, we have lost over 500,000 people, and many of those who have survived will continue to endure its lingering effects for many years. One thing that this pandemic has shown us, beyond any doubt, is that we are all in this together. This virus does not respect borders. The only way we are going to get through this crisis is to do everything we can to make sure that a vaccine is available to all people around the world as quickly as humanly possible. Let me be very clear by stating the obvious. Vaccinations work and are responsible for reducing the incidence of and even eliminating many dangerous but preventable diseases. And that is why I am here today to announce my strong support for the movement to create a people's vaccine as an essential step in containing and ending the COVID-19 pandemic. The U.S. government, that is the American taxpayer, has invested billions of dollars to speed the development and the manufacturing of COVID-19 vaccines. Thus far, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, has granted emergency use authorization to vaccines manufactured by Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. It is anticipated that additional vaccines will receive this authorization soon. To my mind, we must continue to support publicly funded medical research and the work of our public health agencies to find new ways to prevent and treat COVID-19. But we must also make sure that the benefits are broadly shared by the taxpayers who paid for them, not just the wealthy few. It is unconscionable that amid a global health crisis, huge multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies continue to prioritize profits by protecting their monopolies and driving up prices rather than prioritizing the lives of people everywhere, including in the global south. Our government has invested enormous sums of taxpayer dollars into the production of these technologies. All people should benefit, not just a few already obscenely wealthy CEOs and shareholders in the wealthiest country on earth. We need a people's vaccine, not a profit vaccine. President Biden and his foreign policy team have repeatedly made it clear that the United States should play a major role in promoting global cooperation and innovation. They have said that after the reckless foreign policy of the Trump years, that, and I quote President Biden, "America is back," end quote. Well, I believe that a very good way to demonstrate that American values are back is for the United States to play a leading role in facilitating the production and delivery of these life-saving vaccines and in sharing the innovative technologies for producing them. And that is why today I am sending a letter to the Biden administration to support a proposal to waive vaccine-related intellectual property rights at the World Trade Organization so that we can rapidly expand supplies of vaccines. Ending this pandemic requires collaboration, solidarity, and empathy. It requires a very different mindset, a mindset that puts people over profits at every turn. The pharmaceutical companies must not block this effort, and I join you in your request to temporarily waive WTO intellectual property protections on COVID-19 medical technologies during the pandemic. Transferring these life-saving technologies is not just about responding to this pandemic. It's about preparing for the next one. And we know the next pandemic is not a matter of if, but when. Please know that I am an ally in your efforts to guarantee that all citizens in every country on earth, rich or poor, have access to this vaccine. Thank you again for inviting me, and I look forward to working with you to do everything we can to protect every person on this planet until this pandemic is over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernie. I'm like all teared up again, and I already watched it 18 times today. What do you think, Steve? I can't hear you, I think.
Can we have Emily say a couple things?
Yeah.
Sure. I want to point out to everyone that it is a big deal that Bernie is like such a big political figure that came out and is in support of our campaign goals. But I want to be really clear that he did this because we asked him to make a public statement about his support of the TRIPS waiver. And he was like, "Oh, they want this. Yes, I will do this." And that is the power that we are building together in these spaces. And that did not exist before. And I think that is really, really, really cool. And all because we're all like doing our part.
100%. And I think that he said collaboration, solidarity, and empathy, which is sort of all the values that we are trying to focus on and organize around in Free the Vaccine. So, and a big shout out to Health Gap for really helping that make that happen. So, yay.
So today is the online rally. Tomorrow there are global actions. Let's talk about those. Declan.
Yeah, so nice and easy follow-up job here. It's time to talk about action, right? And the global action happening tomorrow. So we'll put a link in the chat of all the actions happening tomorrow. But we'll also talk about some specific actions maybe happening in cities near you. If you're in New York City, that is, the action will go down at 12 p.m. at the Pfizer building on Flushing Avenue. And this action will
sorry, that was wrong at first. It's not on Flushing Avenue. It is in Midtown Manhattan. No, it's okay. There was a couple versions of the flyer. So it's in Midtown Manhattan. If you Google Maps Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, you'll be able to find it.
It's really easy to get to.
Perfect. And that action was put together by CPD Action, HealthCap, Justice is Global, and the Student Global AIDS Campaign.
And Rachel will be there? You
I
can
will
meet.
be there. Emily will be there. Yana is going to be there. Anyone
Ooh.
else in New York should be there. Yeah, and Yana, you're right. It's on 42nd Street, and this Facebook event has the right info, I believe, as well. Yeah.
And I want to really quick sneak peek. I went and picked up the prop for the New York City action.
Amazing.
Paper mache syringe, and it's going to be so cool.
All right, so follow the syringe. What about, there's people like me. I used to live in Boston. Cerna lives in Boston. Like, what about those kinds of people?
Yeah, well, you're in luck because if you're in Massachusetts, and hopefully the location is right here, at noon at Kendall, MIT, and BTA.
Those things mean something. Those mean something. Don't worry, Declan.
Those mean something. I don't know what MBTA means, but I'm pretty sure
It's the train.
The train, of course. And this event is hosted by UAM, Boston Democratic Socialists of America, Justice is Global, and Free the Vaccine Boston. And I've been to Massachusetts, and I can tell you, you don't want to miss this event.
You know what else Massachusetts is known for is ice cream. So you can do that. You can get some ice cream. There's all different kinds of places to get ice cream. But not everyone lives in Boston. There's some people that live, in other places, say like another major East Coast city like DC. What do they do?
Well, what do they do? And so DC likes to get up a bit earlier. So at 11 a.m., Firma offices, 9:50. I'm hoping this is Front Street, Northwest. So you're in front of the offices of Pharma, one of the world's largest pharmaceutical lobbies. Just ask. Bring signs, bring friends, bring masks, and get ready to make some noise. And so this action was sponsored by Shutdown DC, Justice is Global, and People's Action. But
I like your pronunciation of Firma. I think that's what we should call them. You just get it just slightly off where it just irritates them slightly.
Yeah, draws his attention to it.
Now, Declan, that's in DC.
That's true.
But there's some people that aren't in DC. There's people that live in places like, I don't know, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, places like that, like Keisha lives. What do they do?
What do? They are in Pennsylvania, right? And so again, at noon, Pfizer HQ, 500 Alcola Road, Collegeville, near Philadelphia. Right? A car caravan, a banner drop outside the HQ to demand global vaccine equity. Right?
That sounds great if you're in Pennsylvania. But what if you're in none of these places? What do they do?
In none of these places, you can talk to Rachel.
Yeah, you can just call me up. I'll put my number in the chat. So you can join action on social media. So People's Vaccine have this mask filter that you can take a picture with, make a recording of to talk about why you support a People's Vaccine. You can quote some of the great speakers that we heard tonight. You can tag people in it, encourage them to do it as well. And we'll put links to all of that in the chat. And then like while you have your phone out, maybe there's like some more things that you can do. I don't know, Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, if you're doing something on your phone, you might as well call dang White House. Just put this number in your contacts on your phone. Someone will put it in the chat. When people are going through your contacts on your phone, if it's like Joe Biden, and then there's a number, or whoever, you can put in Kamala Harris. Like I'm just going to call Kamala Harris really quick. But anyway, call that number because this will do a whole lot more. Like it means something. And you might think, well, I'm not in the United States. And like, what good is, I'm not a US citizen. They don't want to hear from me. That's why they should hear from you, because what they do will have a big impact. So yeah, call the dang White House, 202-456-1414, and let them know. You can do it while you're walking to the T. Right, Cerna? She says right. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I just put in the chat. Scroll up. There is a public citizen trade watch, also a petition that you can sign and share. So don't forget about that.
Okay. Should we play our exclusive track again?
But yeah, I mean, it's a good exiting track. That is, as I said, it's on the Free the Vaccine website, but you're getting the early exclusive listen again. But we hope to see you in the streets, and if not in the streets, on
the phone calling the White House.
Send pictures of yourself if you like calling the White House. We'll post them.
Who owns the patent on this vaccine? Well, the people, I would say. There is no patent. This is... Could you patent the sun? Who owns the patent on this vaccine? The people, I would say. Who owns the patent on this vaccine? Could you patent the sun? Who owns the patent on this vaccine? The people, I would say. Who owns the patent on this vaccine? Could you patent the sun? Could you patent the sun? Could you patent the sun? Patent the sun? Could you patent the sun? Could you patent the sun? Patent the sun? Who owns the patent on this vaccine?
It's for the people.